Well, folks, so welcome to our video on transit. Wow, you guys got 2 videos in 1 month on this channel. It must be your lucky day. See, the karma is actually good for you already of all the retrograde planets right now. You got me twice now in 1 month on AstrologyKRS channel. So I got a lot of requests. That's why I'm making this, because even though I kind of covered it in my last video of, April horoscope that I made, but still, I mean, now Saturn has gone retrograde in astrology. Retrogradation simply means that from our perspective on Earth, every planet is moving this way. But Saturn now feels moving backwards, starting April 6th. And this is like a 120-day retrograde, so it's kind of like 3-4 months long. At the same time, on April 9th, Mercury is going retrograde till like May 3rd, I believe. So you got 2 planets going retrograde. This is actually quite important because Saturn and Mercury are both going retrograde. Because Saturn represents, first of all, our work ethics, discipline, structure, organization, duty, commitment, sacrifices in life, right? And Mercury represents our intelligence. Not the intelligence that are given through the divine. Mercury is really the analytical, logical intelligence. It's our intelligence to comprehend things. I don't know what you would call that intelligence, comprehension. Meaning like if you gave me a book to read and said, read this 1 page, tell me what this page means. That's Mercury, okay? What you naturally get without even analyzing anything is Jupiter, the actual intelligence. So that's what we're trying to figure out here. And Mercury is also speech, communication. And so now these 2 planets are going retrograde. And Saturn, when we talk about Saturn retrograde, okay, one of the best ways to explain it is correction of our karmas. Saturn is our karmas. Our action that must be performed into this world. Action that have a reaction. Action that... See, karma is not really action. That's more of a Mars thing. We keep saying karma is the action. Karma is the situation you are to deal with. Like this is your karma. Your karma is to get a bad spouse, be abused by them, and then get a divorce from them. That's karma. But obviously it is... You're seeing it happening, being performed. That's why we think of it as more as an action-oriented, vocabulary. But correction of our karmas with the retrogradation, what it means is that whatever you have been doing in your life, whatever you have been experiencing, the karma, whether it's a bad job, bad marriage, bad relationship with your children, some health issues, Saturn goes back to make you realize that now is a time to correct it. It makes you realize. Before, if you didn't realize, now you realize. Before, you kept ignoring yourself. I wake up every morning, my wife curses at me, my husband curses at me, they hate looking at me in the eye, they hate doing all these things. And you keep going with your work life, you keep going with your bad married life. This is happening, this is happening, this is happening, that's fine, that's fine. But when Saturn goes retrograde, boom, you're like, whoa, I'm not going to let this happen now. This is enough. Enough of this BS. Either we make our relationship work now, or we need to walk our separate ways. That's what Saturn really does. Because remember, Saturn is like Judge Dredd. It's the judge and the jury. And here Saturn, the judge and the jury, is now finally making its verdict. Like now is a time for certain things to happen. If you are doing wrong to your spouse, now is the time that you're going to reap those karmas. If your spouse has been doing wrong to you, they will see their karmas come about. And especially like Saturn was stationed from, I believe, March 25th to April 6th, just 2 days ago. Stationed planets especially Saturn, is very, very powerful, as I explained in my last video. Because of the fact your karmas are neither moving forward towards something, neither relying on the past. Your karma are still. The judgment is still. It's kind of like the judge saying, Saturn, the judge saying, we're going to take a 15-minute break and we'll be back in session. Think of it exactly like that. See this is the podium of the judge. Saturn is listening, seeing, watching. Then he says, okay, 15-minute recess. We're going to come back here at 0300 or 1500. 0300, I don't know what court is that, but 1500, we're going to come back. That 15-minute break is that stationary position of Saturn. So now, like Saturn being retrograde officially till I believe like August, now is a time where you're going to pay attention to the situations that happen to you. Finally, you're going to start realizing, okay, I haven't been doing this. Now is the time to do it. You know, this is the placement where you look back, you judge your own karmas. Like, what am I doing in this world? What is it that now I need to do to better my situation? That's what the Saturn retrograde does. Also, on a mundane level, Saturn represents the masses. Saturn represents the working class people, servants, subordinates. One will have to deal with these situations, especially now, like you will notice, when Saturn is retrograde, major amount of marches happen. People go on strike. You see large non-profit organizations having to deal with great amount of burden. Kind of like, let's say, Red Cross, Blue Shield, Net NGO, UN, they're all now are at work. They're all now trying to correct something which is wrong in the world. You know, protests happen, marches happen even more intensely. Of course, they'll happen when it's direct. Retrogradation means that you, as the masses, are trying to correct something that has been unjust by the people. Saturn represents machineries, big machineries. There's upgrades to machineries that happen. Machinery may not work properly, and you have to fix something in there because that belt in, let's say, your tractor was going, and you're like, yeah, I'll change it. I know it's bad. When Saturn goes retrograde, boom, it breaks off. Well, now you have to go and correct it. You have to correct the karma of that machine. So this is not like some scary time. Oh my God, Saturn is going retrograde. What's going to happen to me now? My life is going to get tougher. No, Saturn, especially retrograde in Sagittarius, okay, it's going to go back into Scorpio, in sidereal side, in the Vedic side. And specifically right now, remember this always, the first 70 days of Saturn in a new sign is actually a best thing, terrific thing. Think about it, why? Why for the first 70 days of Saturn transit in any sign, whether it be Aries, its debilitated position, Libra, its exalted position, Aquarius, its Multrikon position, Capricorn, its own sign position, Gemini, its friendly position. Why is it that the first 70 days of Saturn movement into a new sign is an excellent thing? Why? Because this is where a concept known as Ashtak Varga and Kakshaya slot comes in. In Vedic astrology, there's a mathematical calculation known as Kakshaya slot, where for the first 70 days of any zodiac sign, the first 3 degrees, 3.4 degrees of any zodiac sign for Saturn, Saturn is in its own kakshaya, meaning its own section that has been given by the universe or our sages. So when Saturn takes 70 days to cross 3.5 degrees in any zodiac sign. So right now, Saturn is still in the sign of Sagittarius in the beginning degrees. It's in its own kakshaya. Going back, it'll still be in its own kakshaya. When it goes into Scorpio section, it'll be in the last part of Scorpio section, the last 3.5 degrees of Scorpio zodiac sign, which is the kakshaya of your ascendant. What does this mean? You have to now look at your ascendant. What is my ascendant? This is some great, easy stuff to understand if you really know, if you really put your head together and just learn the small concept of Kakshaya slot and Ashtak Varga, transits will make a lot of sense. The last 3.5 degrees of any zodiac sign in your particular horoscope is controlled by your ascendant. So, if Saturn moves into Scorpio, you have to see what is that ascendant. How is the relationship with that ascendant? Is it friendly? Is it neutral? Is it bad? So what's going to happen is Scorpio is all about our psychological baggage. Scorpio is about transformation. Scorpio is about changes. Changes are going to come. Bad way or good way? Well, for that, you have to understand exactly which house Saturn is transiting, which sign it's transiting, what nakshatra is transiting in your particular horoscope from the ascendant. So remember, whenever you're judging transits, judge transit from the ascendant to see your action towards something. Like, I'm going to go on a vacation during Saturn retrograde. I'm going to change my job during Saturn retrograde. I've had it. But let's say in Saturn retrograde, your boss hits you, punches you. You didn't ask for that. You didn't see that coming. That is seen from the moon. That is known as prarabdha karma. The karma that is unchangeable, karma that cannot be corrected, karma that must be paid back. And believe me, you want to pay back that karma. So from the moon, making moon the ascendant and reading the transits from there shows the prarabdha karma. What is to come in this life for you, good or bad, regardless, and you want to pay those back. You don't want to escape from them by wearing some gemstone or some remedy that you may do. Because it is check marking all of your debts off from your book. And when you do that, you're more progressing towards enlightenment, moksha, or perhaps a different loka, meaning a different planet, different planetary system, to be born on a planetary system which is 3.5 billion miles from here. Not light years, billion miles. 3.5 billion miles is every loka. So if you want to go to the next loka, you gotta pay all the debts off here. Now, obviously, if you do not know where your Saturn is, what sign is transiting in, which house is transiting, what your ascendant, all the other astrological details, for that, check out the links here. Check out my full astrological report, which is a new report now that actually shows you your destiny point in the chart, known as BP. The BP initial in your birth chart on the second page shows your destiny. That house has something to do with your life purpose and destiny. So that's available now, and including all my books, Astrology, Conjunction, Aspects, and Mahadashas at the Speed of Light, including all my consultations at this link. So, Saturn's being in its own kakshaya, being retrograde, is a great thing to correct the karmas that will help you. Okay? In Scorpio, what was happening in Scorpio? If you've been following me for 2.5 years, Saturn was in Scorpio. We learned such deep truth about astrology that I've never learned before. It completely changed my intelligence when it comes to astrology. Now when I look at a chart, I see it completely different than I was looking at 2.5 years ago. Everybody was panicking about Saturn and Scorpio, Saturn and Scorpio. I'm like, no, Saturn and Scorpio is going to take us deep. Our karma is going to go deep to learn about certain truth. Retrogration means that if you missed learning something, if you forgot to learn a specific technique, learn a specific analysis of horoscope, you will learn that more. We will all learn that even deeper. Saturn now really wants you to deal with your psychological matters. Like if you have, like when it goes into Scorpio, okay, from Sagittarius going back into Scorpio sign, Saturn is going to make you focus towards your karmas related to self-undoing. Like all the fears that you have. Oh my God, this is going to happen to me. Oh my God, what if that happened? What if that happens? Saturn's going to make you deal with that. Say, no, don't think. This thing is very stupid. The mind is very stupid. Mind is very chanchal, meaning it moves. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down, bad and good, happy, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad. Saturn's like, stop paying attention to that. Pay attention to the karma. When you pay attention to your karmas, and if you do the good karmas, why are you worried? Why? The only time you worry is when you feel like you have done something wrong and you may have to pay back for those things. That's what Saturn does as a retrogration. Then Mercury's retrograde, starting April 9th. Obviously, this is the time where one always has to be careful about their communication. Always has to be aware of what they say to the other people, what they say. You know, emails go haywire. They say like, you know, don't sign any contracts, don't do this, don't do that. Stock market goes up and down. See, here's the thing. Some will experience it, some won't. Mercury retrogression sometimes, most of the time actually, I never even noticed. Mercury came and went, came and went, came and went. For some people, Mercury will affect. What does that depend upon? Not necessarily on your ascendant, not necessarily, you know, where your moon sign is and where Mercury is transiting. No, that's not what it depends upon. Mercury retrograde depends upon your actions. So let's say if I'm in this room, in my studio from April 9th through May 3rd. I have my food here. I have no communication, no contact with anybody. I'm just meditating. I'm reading all the religious books, trying to get closer to God. What is Mercury retrograde going to do then? Nothing. It'll come and go. I won't even feel it. But the minute I have to send out an email, the minute I have to make calls, the minute as a lawyer I have to sign documents and some legal contracts with my client, the minute I am, you know, trying to market something or doing this, doing that, that's where you will feel the Mercury retrograde. You're writing a book. You're editing the book. During Mercury retrograde, if you read one paragraph and if you were to correct 10 words there that you will catch, you will now catch only 3 words and you'll just correct them, move on to the next one. And then you'll come back later in May like, whoa, how did I miss this? How did I miss that? This is how Mercury retrograde affects. But if you're not doing nothing, if you're like just, you know, you're a farmer, you're just farming every day, you're doing this, that, it's not going to affect you as much. Sure, you communication with your spouse and somebody else may go haywire, but again, it depends upon exactly the task you're doing. Because Mercury specifically now represents social media communication, online communication, email, text message, phone. This is where you have to be careful not to say something stupid. A lot of stupid things are said during Mercury retrograde. So just watch out. Okay. So Mercury retrograde with Saturn retrograde, okay, is the correction of our karma through communication. At least till May 3rd. We're going to try to speak. We're going to try to take a stand. We're going to communicate about the things that must be corrected. So when these two planets go retrograde together, we become very vocal about what we need in this life, what we want in this life, and what the change we want to bring in this life. That's why specifically I was saying about the protest. Now, obviously, this is a very cliche statement. This is a very, very broad cliche statement because regardless, protests somehow will always go on anywhere in the world. And you know what I can do? I can find an article where this country is having a protest, this country is having a protest, and I'll be like, oh, look, I predicted protests will happen. boom, they're happening. That's why this is why transit is something I cannot do on a mundane level. Because if I say, well, there will be this attack happening here, that attack happening there, I can say it, and you know what? I will find it. Somehow, somewhere in the world, I'll find it. So the whole mundane astrology, I kind of stay away from. Because only on a personal level, you really get to understand the accuracy of astrology more than just a mundane. Mundane is something like either it's a hit or miss. And it's not more of a hit or a miss. It's more of just taking a shot in the wild and knowing that, yes, your odds are great because somehow, somewhere, something will be happening. But one thing you will understand in your own personal life, what you need to take out of this video is the protest you will have in your own personal life. The things that you're going to protest about. Whether it's with your family, your spouse, your work, your bosses, your employers, or your friends. That's where you will see the protest on a more personal level happening. Okay? So guys, this was my small analysis for the retrogradation that is happening. Hopefully it has cleared a lot of things about you guys. And also remember, yes, I forgot to mention one thing about the Saturn retrograde. Saturn is retrograde in Sagittarius, right? When a planet is retrograde, people say it's giving results of the previous sign. What I have noticed that when a planet is retrograde, it gives results of the opposite sign directly to it. Why? Because they say that when a planet is debilitated and retrograde, it's exalted. If a planet is exalted and retrograde is debilitated. Why? Because it's a sign, becoming the sign directly opposite to it. Saturn is exalted in Libra, but if it's retrograde in the birth chart, they say, well, Saturn is going to act like it's debilitated. Well, where's the debilitation sign? Aries. Where is Aries placed? Directly opposite to Libra. So if Saturn is retrograde in Sagittarius, it's going to show its effect like Saturn in Gemini. Communication. Correcting of karma through communication. Then when it goes into Scorpio and it's retrograde, what is it going to do? It's going to be giving the effect of opposite to itself. Taurus. Our values, we're going to try to correct, or we're going to try to use our correction of karma for our values that we believe in. That's how you need to study that. Okay? So anyway, guys, we'll see you soon. Probably by end of this month. Bye-bye.